Good morning.
Morning.
For those of you who weren't here last week, I just want to make note that we now have some coloring pieces that are there and the blocks over there. So if you want to engage in the work of interpretation with us in more ways than joining the discussion, you're welcome to do that. And thank you, Ingrid, for leading the way and sharing that with Castia. Today, the lectionary is taking us out of the narrative that we've been following so far in Luke. And instead, we are entering the second chapter of John. And this famous passage is known as the wedding in Cana of Galilee. And it is where the Gospel of John tells us that Jesus performed his first sign just after being baptized and calling his first followers, his first disciples, to follow him. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration. When the wine ran out, Jesus' mother said to him, "They don't have any wine." And Jesus replied, "Woman, what does that have to do with me? My time hasn't come yet." And Mary told the servants and said to them, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, there were 6 stone water jars used for the Jewish purification rituals, and each was able to hold about 20 or 30 gallons. And Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them to the brim. And then, when they had done so, Jesus told them, "Now draw some and take it to the head waiter." Now the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine. He didn't know where it had come from, though the servants who drew the water knew. The head waiter called the groom and said, Everyone serves the good wine first. They bring out the second-rate wine only when the guests are drinking freely. You kept the good wine until now. This was the first miraculous sign that Jesus did in Cana of Galilee. He revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So, now I invite you to wander along with me about today's story. I wonder why Mary thought to tell Jesus that there was no more wine, and what she thought he might do about it.
I think she wanted to show them that he could do something, but he might have wanted to do how he did it, no one really knew. Not many people knew. So it's more active.
So maybe she knew perfectly well that he could change water into wine, and just knew that he was capable. And
I think she knew that he could. She didn't know how, but she probably thought, oh, maybe he could just do poof and
just wave his hands, make some magic happen. Sure.
I think why he was like, what do you think I can do about it? Is because he didn't want to just do it in front of everybody, gloat about it, and be like, hey, look at this amazing stuff I can do that none of you people can do.
Sure, so maybe he didn't want to engage at first because he thought it would become a spectacle, you know what I'm saying, where everybody saw this thing happen, this sign, and instead he did it in a way where only a few people saw.
Yeah, I wonder what else was in the realm of possibility in Mary's mind.
Sure.
Because she didn't say, like, my son will make wine. She said, do whatever he tells you. And I wonder what else he could have done. Like, maybe he could have somehow turned the tide of the party so the wine wasn't needed.
Right.
I wonder what other things he could have done.
Maybe she thought he was just exceptionally wise and would figure out the right solution to this problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to take a step back. Was Jesus have any other role at this event besides just being a guest? Was he officiating the wedding?
It doesn't say
No,
that.
because and so he was just there, and Mary was just there. They were just guests came, and Mary happened to notice that the wine is gone, and happened to mention it. Okay.
What does that mean?
I don't know. I'm just saying because I've always interpreted this as that he was like a leader of the event. He was the wedding planner that had to make sure there was enough wine, and that Mary said, well, hey, you're not doing your job because you didn't provide enough wine. But now I hear the story today, it's like, oh wait, he was just
it says Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the celebration.
Yeah, so they're just folks. It's not like he had some kind of a leadership role already.
Right.
Maybe he want to go over his...
Two possible.
Oh, sorry. Finish what you're saying.
Maybe he, since he was just a guest and not like somebody very important to the wedding, he didn't want to be like, oh, I'm the most important person.
Okay, so he didn't want to steal the spotlight. A polite thing to do at a wedding, yes?
I have two possible. Okay, Mary presents this as a problem for Jesus to solve, right? That's the reading that I've always been raised with, but it's like the only other alternative I can think of is Mary. Like, what else? Why else would she bring this fact to him? Jesus knew that somebody was to drink all the wine. Probably not what happened. Like, what else can I think about? But the other thing that does resonate is that Mary also, it's like Jesus has his disciples, he was the mother at the wedding. proud mother, knows the son has some sort of profession or ability or whatever, and says, well, Jesus, you can do things. It's like if my mom brings a lawyer back to a church, or like her church, or brings the doctor back, right? Like, my son's a doctor, he can do this, right? So I imagine, Mary must have something in mind about, Jesus can do something. He's right, I'm proud of my son.
Sure. Yeah. So it's she sees this as an opportunity for her son to make some social advancement based on his skills and talent that she sees in him, to like save the day and make everybody happy about him. Yeah. That's a very understandable motive for Mary to have.
Kind of fits in how I understand the mother-child relationship.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know, why is there anything there with like maternal anxiety and just being like, you deal with it as like, I mean, she has no power. I mean, I don't even think she had power at a wedding as a female in this culture.
Sure.
So I noticed something, I heard something, the other mothers are talking, please fix it. Like, I can't fix it, you
Yeah.
fix it.
Like my hands are full. I can't deal with this.
Right,
Yeah.
like I don't even have it, I mean, there's no sense that she could go into the kitchen if it was full of
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
and do something.
What if Jesus didn't know that the wine was out, and Mary's like, hey, the wine's out. Can you do something about this?
Uh-huh.
And then he's like, everybody, listen to him. He has a plan.
Yeah, so probably, maybe he was completely unaware of what was going on. I wonder why Jesus responds saying, my time has not come yet.
He just wants to enjoy the party.
He just wants to enjoy the party, sure.
Because every wine has its time.
Every wine has its time, okay, yeah, like a true good winer. Jesus has to wait for the right time.
That's a commercial.
Time for his full ministry yet, so he didn't want the word to get out that he was like doing this miraculous thing. If it wasn't the timing yet. for that.
Sure, yeah. He hadn't really begun his ministry yet. He had just been baptized and gathered a few disciples, and this was the first thing that sort of projected him into the spotlight. So it's that initial thing that maybe felt like, I'm not doing this yet, hold on.
So that was gonna be one of my questions about the wine. He was like attracting more people to the celebration, like people were hearing like, ooh, Jesus is gonna be there, so I better get to
No,
this wedding.
this is before he was a known entity.
Right, so then I thought, well, Mary was like, it's your fault that there's no wine, you got all those people with it, but.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, this is sort of a question, but it seems when like she says like, what are you gonna do? He's like, my time has not yet come. I feel like, personally, I think of that. It sounds sort of like, no, I want to do something bigger.
Okay.
But it seems like
Yeah.
he just didn't want to like show like Hannah said, like he didn't want to show it off.
So yeah, maybe you said he was maybe planning something bigger for his first sign. He had envisioned his stepping into the spotlight a little differently.
Well, there's a very human response to that too. That's like the son that doesn't want mom to show the mom. You can praise the animals. He's gonna cook something for us, right? And like,
Right.
It's not my time to do that.
Yeah. A sort of reaction of like, I'm not your trick pony to show around.
Getting
Yeah.
known for a nice party trick would take the eye off of, like, what is his power for? Like, his
Right.
time, like, where is God in this story? Right now, he's creating a really lovely party,
Yeah.
and it would be a concern that word gets out that he can do this, and suddenly he's the bartender.
Right? Doesn't want to get pigeonholed in this thing. I wonder why he said to use these stone jars that were for the purification rituals.
Is he purifying the water into wine?
Okay, so maybe there's a sense of the water being purified into wine. There is an actual, scientific element to that too. That alcohol in the wine would keep water safer to drink, which water, there was always a risk of water back then of being containing some, sickness, disease.
Maybe they were the closest to jars.
Maybe they were just what was there on hand. Yeah.
Maybe it was to signify that what was going to happen was from a holy source, that this was a sacred thing that was going to happen.
Yeah, there's a symbolic element of this. This is a holy source. This is an object, a tool that is used to make us holy or clean before God, and in so doing, there's some connection there.
Well, it's anywhere from 120 to 180 gallons of wine. So probably better for a party.
You're right, they were big containers.
That's what strikes me. Do you know how heavy 20 to 30 gallons of wine is?
Yeah.
That's not even counting a stone jar that big is really heavy in itself, and then that much water is super heavy. I can't imagine people back then. How do they?
The scale is not quite
The scale is not
there.
right. Yeah.
I mean, how does a wood stick? Old rock. I don't know. But I think maybe like, I don't know exactly, but doesn't purification sort of have stuff to do with God? And like it would be easier to just to do it in it's easier to do it in things that are yours. Like it's easier to win a soccer game on your own field. Like he wanted sort of something that's
Interesting. So the purification jars being involved with Jewish ritual is a way of seeing this as Jesus' home field. I love that.
not like Disney goes
Yeah.
to the ATM and asks for one of those.
I wonder how the celebration changed after the new wine was served.
Well, I wonder how they recognized that it was better wine. I mean, the notion of bringing out that wine then, a lot of wines taste better later in the party. I mean,
Even when I'm sober, I can't always completely tell the difference.
I suspect that it probably brought glory onto the family hosting it for having made that choice to have that much wine. I mean, that would not have been cheap.
Yeah.
So
that was brought honor
Yeah.
and this sense of like, wow, you're doing something really special here.
Yeah.
You hosts say
Yeah.
this.
I'm thinking if the family, first of all, ran out of wine, maybe they're not a very rich or powerful family. So maybe this is Jesus' gift to them, going, here is a whole lot of wine you don't have, which will make your party look so much better.
Sure, yeah, so perhaps they were not able to procure enough wine, and so he transformed this event that might have been shameful into something that was a great honor. I'm going to ask the next question to keep us moving along. We have a lot of interesting contributions today. But so I wonder why Jesus's first sign took place here in this way.
Not about this, but one question: who's getting married?
Doesn't say.
Is this like a big?
It doesn't say. What do you imagine, and how does that change the story for you?
I'm sort of imagining some poor people,
Okay.
It does sort of change how the story gets looked at. If it's the king and queen are getting married.
Right. It makes a difference whether it's
then it's he's
people who had enough where they should have been able to procure extra wine versus people who couldn't procure more out of their own financial scarcity.
Maybe it's like family or
Yeah, perhaps family, friends, relatives of some sort. So I wonder why Jesus' first sign took place here in this way.
I think it was his mom's choice.
It was his mom's choice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mary initiated his stepping into the spotlight.
I'm kind of wondering, had Jesus done other smaller things beforehand? So Mary knew and went, oh, you've done this before for me or whatever. Go do it for these people.
So maybe she has seen Jesus work some miracles like this, little tricks of his in the house growing up, and she knew he could. Yeah.
I'm going off of what Ryan said. Maybe this isn't actually the first sign. Maybe he's done other things, but people just didn't notice. But this time he decided to tell his disciples.
Right. It's the first time it's public, in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this seems like it might be the first public sign that he is powerful. Like his mom has seen him in the house do that.
Sure.
They
Yeah.
use- I don't know.
He didn't suddenly gain this power.
Yeah.
Right? He
This is,
likely had this
She's like-
ability before.
yeah,
Yeah.
she's like, you should do it. Show
Come
them.
on, do the thing I know you can do. Yeah. Okay.
Mary Ann was right.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say that maybe he hadn't done signs at home before, but that he and Mary had talked about that he was gonna be called to do this thing, and maybe Jesus was so afraid. And you know how parents sometimes have to go, come on, you can do this thing that you don't think you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So maybe it was Mary's.
There's always that hesitancy to stepping on the stage, which you know well, of when you haven't done that before. I imagine you have to play Mary's role often when you're working with high school drama students.
Yes. You can do it, you can get out there and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder where the good news is for you in today's story.
Well, I'm just gonna point. Oh, sorry. No.
Maybe that it was the first sign that Jesus could do something so powerful, I guess, and other people were like, "This is amazing," but he still doesn't be like, "Look at what I did. It's so amazing." It's
Sure.
the good news is that he was able to do something pretty cool, but wasn't just like, I did a sneak.
Sure, yeah, did it in a way that was supportive to other people rather than making it about him.
I mean, from a purely cultural standpoint, I believe that this is one of the more influential stories in the Gospels. I think a lot of people who may not know Christian stories know this one. A lot of people know this one. Heck, to this day, I'm afraid of running out of wine at a party, and I do bring out the good stuff later. We talk about Jesus having all of his followers there. I wonder, what happened to his follower count, after this particular event. I mean, people who were with him and that surrounding community probably saw, hey, this thing happened. I will bet you that this, could have been an inflection point in his ministry.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first public sign people probably noticed and started being like, hey, I want to pay attention to what this guy's doing.
I'm almost wondering if he was testing his powers. He was like, I don't know if it's gonna work. Perhaps give me a minute. Stir on this little bit of water. Okay, it worked. Give one more minute, Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so.
Only works if people want to watch you.
Right. Yeah, so there's an element, whether he's done it before or not, of the public element makes him probably have that apprehension of like, okay, is this still gonna work when I'm doing it, in front of everybody?
Can I do six giant barrels?
Right?
I do agree.
Okay, last words, Finn, and then Mary Ann.
I do agree with Ryan because, you can almost,
pressure is on, and then it becomes harder to do it. Yeah.
So I think he sort of wanted to like wait.
Yeah.
Also, I think when Mary said that, he was sort of like formulating, what am I gonna do?
Sure. It took him a moment to figure it out. Okay, last words.
I was gonna say that when you're at a wedding, generally you're around people that you know well or other people know well. Like it's kind of an inner circle of good people all around you. And so he was able to do his first son in a very accepting space.
In the context of loving community, of friends. And,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so in a way, Mary and God were like, let's start him out slow, or let's start him in a place that he can feel confident, or that there's not going to, what were the stakes if he didn't turn the water into wine?
Right. I mean, that's a beautiful insight of like how our gifts show up in the context of loving community, and how a loving community can be, to use a techie word, an incubator for our greatest gifts. All right, well, thank you all for wondering along about today's story with me.